obviously the next step in reproducing a painting is painting. This is what I'm reproducing, and even though it looks black, the bulk of this background, there's really an undertone of blue coming through. So I'm basically following my cartooned outline and just proceeding to lay down color. I'll work it pretty much as a paint by number at first, but since I'm working in oils, that'll give me the opportunity to blend a lot later. Whereas working with latex or acrylic, drying time is quick, and in an area as large as this, I want that blending time. So I have done large areas of blending in latex, and it's a killer. You can take a look at this Tamara de Lompica painting, which is, I believe, 6 by 8 feet. And the arm, the forearm that you'll see in the painting is probably about 5 feet long. And blending that with even the largest brushes and the wettest paint was a little tricky. I eventually ended up in that painting airbrushing to affect the blending that I wanted to get, but didn't fully achieve using latex. Anyway, now it's just a matter of laying in color, matching brushstrokes. We have the basic elements laid out in the exact place where they need to be. As long as I'm certain where these elements belong, the challenge then becomes achieving the final surface quality of the painting, blending, the color blending, the brush stroke in some cases. And so we proceed. I'll eventually lay a layer of ivory black over this French ultramarine, which will give me that deep blue-black color that's being affected in the original Manet. I'm using a smaller brush to describe the edges, since I'm working on a heavily toothed surface. The smaller brush is going to give me more control over describing these general areas. I'm also using tube oils, Winsor Newton in this case, and thinning a bit with some spirits, mineral spirits, just so I can get a somewhat clean edge around these described areas. I'll blend these edges later when I start laying in the neighboring elements. Now the approach to every painting is going to be very different depending upon the original style of the artist, the size you're working in, and the medium in which you're working. Many times it's make it up as you go along. Just be familiar with your medium and know its limits and its potentials, and go from there. Using a larger brush to describe these greater areas of color, just because I can. But I do want to be careful around the detail that I've described. Otherwise, my sketching up will have been for nothing. Now that I've completed this foundation of this French ultramarine blue, I'm going in and building up a kind of a glaze effect by blending this ultramarine with the blue, being careful to respect the perimeters of these outlined areas. I don't want to go too heavy with this because the object is to blend it. So it took a lot of ultramarine blue to cover this field, but it's not going to take a lot of black to achieve what it is that I want to achieve. I really want that blue to come through though, so I do not want to go heavy on this black. So you can see that I'm working on these larger areas first, and then I think I'll go back after this and close in on the small detail, which is the opposite of the way I worked to begin with. Besides, it's not going to hurt to have, in this case, some of that blue working as a sort of an aura around these areas. And like I said, every painting's different. I mean, I have never approached a painting this way, a reproduction, but it's what it called for, and I think this will end up being the best solution. What ultimately demands the way you work is what, in this case, my client wants. But I normally prefer to work in latex, but she wanted to see brush strokes. Color matching is quicker when you're working in oil because the color is the color out of the tube that's the color you get. With latex, your paint will always dry darker than how it appears on your palette. So you always have to do color tests first when you're working with latex. Unless you have a built-in instinct to know how much darker a color is going to dry. And you can build that instinct. But it's just a matter of continuing to work. Okay, you can see how the effect that the color blending has. Now, there will be much more work involved in color blending before this thing is done. But that's down the road. In the meanwhile, this was a good start.